Abroad Pod.
Hello, I'm your host, Rowan, and this is the Teaching Abroad Pod. This episode is about one teacher's dreams becoming reality. Joining us today is teacher traveler extraordinaire Maiah Hollander, who got TEFL certified and was dreaming of teaching abroad all throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, then finally did it in 2022 when she took off for Taiwan. Maiah got her BA in communication with a focus on journalism at the University of Washington in Seattle and worked in digital content creation, marketing, communications, and related positions before switching to teaching online and then abroad in Taiwan. She then went on to find a position in the beautiful Costa Blanca region of Spain, where she's joining us from today, and has recently begun helping others on their expat journeys as an expat coach. Welcome to the pod, Maiah.
Thank you so much. What a great introduction.
Thank you. It was all on your resume and right there to take from. So
I
what is it
appreciate it.
that inspired you to give up your career in communications and transition into teaching?
Well, it's something that actually had been a dream of mine, this idea of travel since, gosh, I was 10. I had this very specific dream for a 10-year-old that I was going to be living in London, writing for the Rolling Stone. Like I had this all at 10 years old. Clearly, that didn't quite happen exactly like that. But yeah, it just kind of was something that had always kind of been in the back of my mind for years. And I had tried so many different ways to make it happen, from looking to be an au pair, applying to colleges abroad, looking into study abroad programs at University of Washington. And there was always something that kind of missed the mark, or the timing wasn't right, or something happened, all the way to a global pandemic, just really messing with these plans I had. And it finally came to a head where I was doing well in corporate career. I was, able to save money. I was able to travel, but very limited. And it came to a point where I said, if I don't actually put some real effort behind this and really commit to this, I don't know when this is going to happen. It's not going to just fall in my lap. I have to do this. I have to make this change. So that's kind of a very nutshell version of of where that all came from. Yeah, it was just kind of a very lightning bolt realization of like, if you don't do this, you might never do it.
It was just before the pandemic is when you made that call?
Oh goodness. No, that's the funny part. I had been in corporate and I was in a very demanding job, and it just was getting to me, and it was really hard every day. And quite honestly, it came down to me sitting in my car in the parking lot, just kind of staring ahead for a minute, going like, why am I doing this? I am not happy with this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Called my mom, talked to her about it. She had mentioned, her friends' kids had done this whole TEFL thing, and I've had friends that did it too. And I finally was like, that's the ticket. That's how you do it, because there's this constant demand for it, right? Everywhere
Sure.
in many, many different countries, they're all looking for English teachers. So I just kind of made the decision then, that's how we're going to do this. We're going to commit to it. We're going to do this. That was, I think, in 2019. So I got my certificate March 2020. So
Right
the
when it
decision was
happened.
made for me.
Yes. Interesting. All right. Did you always consider teaching online as an option, or was that more another thing that was kind of decided for you based on the situation?
Well, it started out with, you know what, I need experience, because I have all this corporate experience and versions of teaching or tutoring or mentoring in some capacity, in my life, but I hadn't really had much teaching experience. So that's where the online thing came on. And I was working for an online company just to kind of get some experience and exposure, and something else to have on the resume when I first tried to apply for a teaching job. So it worked out well until there was a new law that had been put in place in the country that the company was in, and everything just went kaput.
China.
So
China.
yes, it was China. How did you know? So yeah, that kind of put a kibosh on that. But that was more my decision of I don't really have the time to volunteer at a school or I'm working a job 9 to 5. So working online just seemed to fit really well with, well, you need experience, find a way to do that. So
That's, I guess,
yeah,
one benefit of teaching students in Asia is you can work it around other jobs. A lot of people do that, right?
yeah,
In this gig
yeah,
economy, you might have one
very
job in the
much.
daytime and teaching students in the
Yeah.
evenings or in the mornings, things
hmm
like that.
Well, even now, some people teach. I've got friends here that are teaching online or finding other opportunities outside of school to teach because, not only for the experience, but sometimes some of these salaries are not
Yeah.
quite enough for what you're trying to do. So it's helpful there too, for
Like
sure.
break even in a lot of countries.
Yes, exactly. It's enough to break even living where you are, doing what you do every day.
Mhm.
But if you want to do more, either have some savings or just do a lot of tutoring and kind of make money as you go,
Mhm.
which both work. I've done both.
So, of all the countries in the world, why did you decide to start your teaching abroad adventure in Taiwan?
Oh, I got that question a lot when I told people that I was doing this in the first place. It was kind of a mix of I had an interest and also it was practical and logical because I've always been interested in going to Asia in general. To me, that has always been somewhere I've been drawn to. And as I was looking at the different opportunities that are out there, the JET program in Japan, the EPIC program in Korea, those were high on my list. But at the time, I had a lot of people who had done those programs or had heard about the country I was interested in. They said, "Oh, but you have tattoos." And I got a little
Oh.
taken aback by that. I was like, yes, I do. Is that going to be a big problem? Because I always knew that, like, for example, in Japan, there are places like the onsens, the public onsens that say, oh, if you have tattoos, you can't be in here. Some gyms won't
No
let you go
Yakuza.
in because of tattoos, because the association with Yakuza. So I was kind of like, oh, I don't know. And I was worried. So I kind of let that color
Hmm.
how I was going to do this. I still wanted to go to Asia. I wanted to go somewhere that the pay was enough to be able to travel and enjoy where I was. And so Taiwan kind of just fit a lot of the pieces that I was looking for. And it just kind of seemed different. It was this teeny tiny little island that, I had only kind of heard about, read about, and there was a connection from an alum from one of my programs, my TEFL program, who worked there, said it was great. So it just kind of all seemed to domino effect into like this workable location for me. So as soon as I kind of made the decision, I committed to it. And yeah, I did get a lot of questions about it, though, for sure.
No regrets.
No, none at all.
Just for people who might be thinking, I can't go teach in Korea or Japan with my tattoos. Not entirely accurate. You still can do that.
Not true. Not true. I let it scare me when I was listening to and the Reddit threads, which I know all of us go on Reddit. We all look at those answers. They are something to consider, but they are not the end all be all of
Yes.
what's really happening out there.
Yes. Probably depends on the tattoo, where it's located, which program you're applying
Very
to.
much, very
A
much.
lot
And
of
sometimes
factors
you
to
get a
consider.
school that they don't care.
They don't care.
So it's entirely possible.
Mhm.
Totally fine.
So back to Taiwan, what
Yes.
sites do you recommend for anyone living in or wanting to travel to
Oh,
Taiwan? What must you see?
so I actually lived in the middle of the island, in a place called Changhua. So Changhua is very connected, but there's not a whole lot to see from a tourist perspective, in my opinion. It's very much where a lot of families live, a lot of the factories are, things like that. So the middle of the island can be a little tricky, in terms of what to see. Normally people are going up to Taipei, which of course, there's lots and lots of things to see and do in Taipei. If you go just a little bit outside of Taipei, there's Beitou, which is the hot springs central of Taiwan, which is wonderful. I did that for my birthday one year. And Taipei 101, the extremely tall Taipei 101, is a lot of fun. If you're afraid of heights, I truly do recommend don't do this. It's a lot. But if you're not afraid of heights, you can get your ticket, go up to the top floor. They actually have these great little scenes that they have created. They've got like fake cherry blossom trees and just really picturesque things for you to take pictures with. So amazing. And there's a food court, and I mean, and there's just so much good food in Taipei. If you like, I guess, dim sum, I suppose there's a Din Tai Fung, which a lot of people really enjoy. Quite honestly, I actually prefer some of the more local stuff. There was this turkey meatball that was really famous in Songhua, and there was this one shop right next to my school, that tiny little hole in the wall place. The guy was so nice to me every day, waving, and it was delicious. I could not get enough. And of course, boba. Oh my goodness. I think Taiwan is the birthplace of boba, or so they claim.
Mhm.
I haven't done the research myself, but that's what they say.
You
And
have to
like,
blame for my son's addiction.
absolutely. Write an angry letter to Taiwan. They've done it. So fantastic boba, so many different options. And unlike, at least in the US, it's more common in Taiwan that you can control how much sugar is actually in these things. So there's just a lot more health benefits, I feel like, when it comes to boba in Taiwan. Yeah, I mean, I've tried so many different things. At one point, a friend of mine took me to a restaurant and they had tiny little snails, and that was the appetizer.
And it was
And
good.
it was good. I actually was perfectly happy with that. I was expecting kind of like I've tried escargot, and those snails are huge,
Hmm.
but these were like little bite-sized things. So yeah, totally recommend that at least to
I
try.
like things that have
Uh
butter and garlic more so.
yeah, okay, then the traditional escargot might
Yeah.
be more your route then.
So what brought you from Taiwan to Spain?
That actually was the fault of the pandemic. So at the time, I wanted to go to Taiwan. It was still in the middle of the pandemic. So everything was completely shut out. Taiwan really put like a really intense blockade about who could go in, who could go out. And the answer was nobody could go in or out. And so I was getting more and more worried about, I have no idea when that's gonna open back up. So, but I need to do this. I need to go. So I had applied also to this program, a government program in Spain called NALCAP. And the program there, I had put in my application and everything, and they said, "Hey, yes, you fit the profile. You've been accepted into being in the lottery for a placement. It wasn't a, hey, here's your place."
Hmm.
So I was still pretty early in the process. And of course, right when that happened, Taiwan opened its borders. And I knew I wanted to go to Taiwan. So I asked the program and the people that were helping me at the time, I said, hey, can I defer for 1 year so I can go do this Taiwan thing and then I will come to Spain? And that's kind of how this all happened. Was Spain just happened to be one of the places that was opening their borders at the time. So
Gotcha.
a little
I was there
different.
waiting for you once you finished
Yeah,
your contract.
yeah, exactly. So I
Perfect.
knew I would get in. I just didn't know, the specifics.
What would you say are the highlights of living and teaching in Spain?
Well, I will say that I had absolutely no Spanish skills when I came here. I studied French, German, I tried Chinese, I've tried a bunch of languages, but never Spanish. And Spanish is one of the one languages that I have gotten probably the furthest in my fluency journey. I'm nowhere near fluent, but I think I'm at an A2, for only a year and a half, which
Qué
is
bueno.
not bad. I'll take it. That's one of the first times that I've had a language actually kind of grow past me. Okay, here's my study period. Now I'm still learning it without taking classes. It's interesting. I tried to do that in Taiwan, but Chinese is quite difficult. So,
Nice when the
uh,
alphabet is the same. Also, like phonetically, it's pretty close.
yes, exactly, exactly. That was probably one of the biggest culture shocks I ever had in Taiwan was walking down the street and there is literally no English, at least where I lived, because again,
Mhm.
it's not the big city,
Right.
right? So yeah, that was kind of jarring. But yeah, coming here to Spain, it was like, oh yeah, okay, I can figure out what that means. Or oh, okay, that's close enough to the French word I know that's this. So it was nice to be able to kind of work my way through it without having to completely rely on my Google Translate.
I mean, I could totally relate having lived in small town Korea. Like you begin to
Hmm.
rely on pictures on menus and things, and
Yes.
those chicken feet didn't really look like chicken feet, to be honest. They looked pretty
No,
delicious.
isn't that a surprise?
How about the highlights? Like, what's the places to see in Spain, especially where you
Oh,
are? Must maybe like a lesser
well,
known, not as touristy for the Western North American crowd, I guess.
not for the North American crowd. Most definitely not. I am a minority being an American here. Most of the Americans that I am aware of are other oxes. We call them oxes. They're auxiliaires de conversación. So we call them oxes. Yeah, so this is an interesting place that I'm in because the way that the NALCAP program works is you get to pick your top three, and I think it's similar to the Korean EPIC program, and you pick your top three areas that you're interested in. Now, this was actually my mistake where I thought they were talking about the city itself. So, for example, they said, okay, Valencia, Barcelona, Madrid, and others. So I put Valencia thinking that I was trying to get to the Valencian city, the city of Valencia. That is not what it was. It's the Comunidad de Valencia, which is kind of like the county, more or less.
Mm.
And so I am actually at the very, very, very southern tip. So I'm as far away from Valencia proper as you can be in this county, in a town called Torrevieja. And it's an interesting place because this place is actually mostly expats. And these are expats from Britain, Russia, Ukraine, Argentina. I mean, just everywhere. So there are, of course, Spanish people here, people born in Spain. However, they are actually more the minority in this
Really?
case. So while there's definitely you speak Spanish here, that's very true. But you will also find many shops that are Argentinian products. There's an Ireland shop. I mean, it's very bizarre. And I'll admit, it kind of was not what I was expecting at all. And I don't necessarily think that this is, at least for me, this hasn't really been my, oh, this is it. This is my place. I'm going to be here forever.
So it's more for
Um,
people who are like, I want to go live with other expats.
A little bit, and the crowd here are more the retirees. It's
Mm.
an older crowd. This isn't the party Spain. This isn't the I'm staying out till
Not
five in the
Ibiza.
morning. Yeah, so there's definitely things to do. I personally am just more interested in, for instance, Valencia, Barcelona, Madrid, the larger cities. I'm definitely a city girl at heart. So for me, this was a bit of a mismatch.
Gotcha. What about the food and drink? Famous is Spain for such things.
Well, of course, sangria. I mean, who doesn't think of sangria when you think of Spain? But there's a couple dishes that are very popular here. Paella, of course. Supposedly, again, I don't want to get in trouble here, but they say that paella was from Valencia or the Valencian community. So they're very proud of their paella here, which is quite good. In this town in particular, they actually do have like a paella cook-off, more or less, where you can sign up with your team. You get into this big parking lot area. Everybody's cooking paella everywhere. And then the judges get to tell you who's got the best one at the end of the day. So it's a big deal. But and then yeah, the general tapas. There's some really common ones like patatas bravas, potatoes more or less. For Americans, I guess they're kind of like country potatoes in this in the shape. Hash browns do not exist here. Um, or I have yet to see a hash brown here, but
Even hash browns
uh,
have different meanings in different restaurants. So
very much so, very much so. Or like if you're an American that likes iced coffee, you're gonna get some strange looks. That's not really a thing here. There's definitely cafes that have since done so. I wonder if it's because I go there so often. Um, but yeah, so there's a couple differences for sure. My favorite drink since coming here is Tinto de Verano, which is like a lemonade wine kind of mixture. Absolutely the best drink in the summertime, 100%. So if you get a chance,
like with the bubbly, you
uh,
know.
It's not so much bubbly. Really, truly, it is like lemonade and a wine. It's
Oh,
not like a really nice wine or anything like that, but combination's delicious.
all right. And what would you say are the pros and cons of teaching in Spain as compared to Taiwan or vice versa?
Well, I will say that the pro of being in Spain is you are connected very easily to the EU. You can explore everywhere quickly, and for the most part, cheaply. But some of the flights are kind of insane. I'm supposed to go to Toulouse next weekend, and I think round trip I spent 40 euros. Yeah,
That's
it's
blow my
that's
mind.
yeah, it's kind of, especially for an American, it's like, I'm sorry, how much? I had friends that spent less than 30 euros and they went to Morocco. So again, you can be really connected really fast.
There's not another $100 worth of baggage fees and whatnot on top of that.
It depends. It depends how much baggage you want to bring. Most of these trips for us are going to be weekend trips, which again, as an American, is hard to wrap my brain around. Just like, oh yeah, I'm going to France for the weekend.
Just need a
What?
backpack, a carry-on, you're good to go.
Yeah, and for the most part, you're fine. As opposed to trying to get there from the US, no problem.
Even
That's
going
fine.
from city to city in the US.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I will say that because where I live, there are no trains. So I have to go to another city called Alicante, which is more or less an hour and a half by bus, to get to the train, to get to the airport. So depending on where you are in Spain, can be more connected for sure. Taiwan, I will say, as far as connected, they have trains around the entire island. So you really truly can explore everywhere in Taiwan. Taiwan, you're able to save money. It's just a fact of life. The cost of living is significantly lower than the US and Spain.
On that
Spain is
note,
also cheaper. I think I had an apartment with my water and Wi-Fi included, and I was paying 250 a month.
that's what I was going to ask you. I was like, are they about
Yeah,
$300 a month? And you even less. Wow.
even less, even less. So you can save a lot of money in Taiwan. It was cheaper for me to eat out in Taiwan than to cook food.
Mhm.
And my apartment didn't have a kitchen, which is very common in Taiwan, by the way, to
Why it's
not have a
cheaper to eat
kitchen.
out, I guess. A lot of people
Yeah,
don't have the
it's
facilities.
true. It's true. In most places, if you were going, a lot of them will get a hot plate and you can still cook that way. But seriously, for the most part, I mean, I spent maybe $7 a day if for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
That salary goes a long
Spain,
way.
not so much. Yeah, that's true. It was a lot easier to save in Taiwan. Spain is definitely a break-even country. I mean, I'm sharing an apartment with another Ox, and we're both paying about 250, which again is cheap, but your salary and our salary here in this town is more or less 1,000 euros a month. So if you're also wanting to travel, that's where I was talking about the tutoring thing, where it's online or in person. Most likely you're going to want to find something unless you have savings. But even then, you just got to be careful when you're here in Spain for sure. So you just got to be very careful, cognizant of where your money's going.
How about the main differences between teaching in a private language school as compared to
Mm.
being a conversation assistant for local teachers in primary or secondary schools?
So in Taiwan, I was running my own class. I was handed a curriculum and saying, hey, here are the books that we're using. Here's the schedule of what lesson needs to be done. But it was up to me to plan that lesson, whether it was the games, how I was going to explain something, if I was going to use some kind of realia or links to, this particular video, things like that. So it was all up to me in that sense, which, again, pros and cons. It's nice to be able to kind of run your own class and to go at the pace that your kids are going at. When you're working here as an ox, it's not so much. Usually, again, this is very dependent on who is going to be your co-teacher. In some cases, I've had friends that had co-teachers that didn't want anything to do with them. and didn't use them at all. So they were kind of bored just standing around in class and waiting. I've also had, in my case, there have been one or two times where the co-teacher gives me flashcards and says, "Okay, class is yours. Go." And it was very, "Oh, okay, let's figure this out on the fly." Thankfully, I had had experience in
Mhm.
Taiwan prior to kind of be like, okay, we can do this. But again, it just really depends on who your co-teacher is. So I've been a nice balance with my school, but I've also heard others that unfortunately are just kind of sitting and twiddling their thumbs in the back of the classroom.
I've heard similar things about Epic in Korea. So yeah,
Oh, is
it
that so?
depends a lot
Okay.
on your co-teacher, I think, with these public school programs.
Okay, that's good to know. Funnily enough, that's actually my next stop, ideally.
Oh, I guess that could be my next question then. What's next
Oh,
on your
perfect.
TESL bucket list?
Well, since you asked, I just applied to the EPIC program. They opened their application February 1st, and I finished it February 1st. So I am very excited to return to Asia and hopefully kind of figure out if I can set down some roots. I think I'm ready for that.
It's a great program for sure. My wife actually did Epic. It's
Oh,
kind of like you said, you never know where you're going to end up. I think she said she
hmm
wanted Jeju was her first choice,
hmm
and then like
Oh,
maybe
the island?
Seoul or Busan or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Busan, I've heard a lot of people wanted that.
she ended up in Cheongnam province instead, which I don't think was any of her
Oh.
choices, but that's where she met me.
Yeah.
So fate, I suppose. Like,
Hey, there we go.
yeah,
See,
sometimes good
you
things
can
happen from not getting what you wanted.
exactly. It was meant to be.
Yes. But yeah, it's if you want to stay a long time, it's nice guaranteed pay
hmm
increases through the longer you stay with the same province and things like that. So
hmm
certainly it's nice,
Absolutely.
reliable program. You're gonna get paid on time
hmm
and in full, and they're gonna follow the
hmm
contracts and labor laws, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, yes. That is one of the big pros of joining a government-run program. I will say be careful in Spain because this is a government program. However, there's a lot of fluctuation in when you get paid. It may be on time. Sometimes they will tell you, "Oh, there's something that's wrong." I mean,
Oh, even the
Spain
government program.
Yes, yes. And I don't know if enough people talk about this. And not to discourage people from applying, it's still a good way to get here and to have some kind of technically guaranteed process. However, for example, there was a year or two ago where people did not get paid for the first 3 months
Oh
that they
wow.
were here. So this is one of those places where I say, do not come here without savings. I highly, highly recommend that you have savings or some very quick way to have some kind of income because this place is not a guarantee.
Good to know.
Yeah, heads up.
Kind of on that note of money,
Yeah.
what advice do you have for people who may be on the fence about spending money on TEFL training and hesitant about the startup costs for teaching abroad?
So, what kind of tipped the scales for me was, and this isn't going to be true for everyone, I understand, but I was in my corporate career. I had been further along in my corporate career. So I was making enough money to kind of be like, okay, I can save just a little bit and I will have enough to do this without putting myself in debt. So I was very lucky in that sense. That's not to say that you shouldn't, if you're going to be in debt, you shouldn't do this. Just be cognizant of what your budget is and have a plan on how you're going to pay that back. Same with anything. The thing that really was great in my opinion, was the fact that once you have your TEFL certificate, you don't lose it. So to me, it was one of those things where it's like, I'm going to pay this one time price and I'm going to get training and a certificate that I can take with me for the rest of my life. And it's going to enable me to do this thing that I have been dreaming of doing, more or less with a guarantee of like, you're always going to be able to find a job. There is a country somewhere that wants your skills. So it's just a matter of when is it feasible for you to spend that money? Understand that, once you get this, it's something that is going to enable you to make more decisions. So it's just going to open more doors for you. So, again, to me, it wasn't so much about I need a job. It was more about, I want this dream, I want this passion of travel to come into fruition. To me, it was an acceptable balance of what was I going to give and what was I going to get.
Low risk, potentially high reward, I guess you could.
Exactly, exactly. And, it's not to say that you have to use it immediately. It allowed me to teach online,
Hmm.
and that allowed me to make money. And I could put that away towards whatever I wanted. And at the time, it was traveling to Taiwan. So, again, it just opens up doors for you. But you wouldn't have been able to access that at all if you didn't have the certification in the first place.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the pod and sharing all of your wonderful experiences abroad.
Thanks so much. I had a great time.
And if anyone wants to contact you directly for expat adventure advice, where should they go?
So my website is Do You Coaching, and that is spelled DOU coaching. So don't get confused. But yeah, reach out to me on Do You Coaching. I also have a blog there that's talking about all of the different things that are happening abroad with me and what to expect and some maybe some strategies on getting yourself out there. So I really look forward to hopefully reaching out and chatting with some of you all.
Awesome. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Thanks so much. I had a great time.
Before we go, I should mention our contacts in Spain are now also interviewing for similar conversation assistant type positions in K to 12 schools across Spain. Stipends range from a few hundred euros to over 1,000, depending on if the placement includes free housing or not. Candidates are now interviewing for September and October starts, and the positions run a full school year into June of next year. There's also a volunteer program for youth under 30, which includes free homestay housing and 3-month-long positions beginning in April and September of this year or January of next year. And for Taiwan, our contacts are mainly hiring for private language school positions with start months throughout the year. There's also an excellent program in K to 12 schools that's available to experienced teachers, which even provides a housing allowance, a rare benefit when it comes to teaching English jobs in Taiwan, indeed. They are now interviewing for August starts, and salaries in Taiwan typically range from about 40 to 70,000 new Taiwan dollars per month, which is more than enough to live comfortably in Taiwan and save some money, as you heard from our fine guest in this episode. Oxford Seminars course graduates should get in touch with their job placement advisor for more details. Thanks for tuning in to the Teaching Abroad pod. We'll be releasing new episodes monthly for the foreseeable future. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe and share it with your friends. Remember, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all the usual places. If you have any great ideas you'd like to hear us discuss in upcoming episodes, please leave them in the comments on YouTube or email us at teachingabroadpod@oxfordseminars.com. Thanks for listening.